I'm tired.
Hello, everyone. You're listening to the Late Morning Program with Namras. This is episode 47. This is the #1 Hare Krishna podcast in the world. I'm here with my friend Kishori, Jani. Kishori, thank you for joining me.
Oh, so nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. So today, I wanted to hear about Kishori's life, and but before we start, I want to just kind of like talk a little bit about the title. The title of this podcast is Vedic Feminism, Empowering Women in Krishna Consciousness. So maybe we can kind of little bit discuss what the thought process was for us behind the title and what that is maybe and kind of where we want to go with that today in our discussion.
Sure. Yeah, that's
it's a little bit of a touchy, kind of title. And for me, it was mostly about like a clickbait title, because I know when people see that kind of thing, they like to click and they want to tune in. So anyways, Kishori, why don't you go ahead?
I'd not really mention the feminism part just because I wasn't so sure. I did mention it, but I was like, maybe we should leave that out because
I just ran with it.
It's all good. It's all good. I think it's meant to be. So for anyone listening, we want to make sure that, just right off the bat, we'd like to just apologize to anyone who might feel triggered by these words, which are, quite laden, a lot of baggage sometimes. And people feel so many different emotions when they hear the word feminist, especially in ISKCON, or if they hear the Vedic woman, that also has a lot of triggers for a lot of people, depending on where you're on in your journey in ISKCON. So I do think they could be reconciled. I really believe that they're actually, in one sense, synonymous. If you try to understand what is the goal of feminism, it's not simply equality, although in a kind of superficial way, yes, we do expect a reasonable sense of equality, being treated with respect and all that. But actually, there's many different forms of feminism. One of them is quite popularly known as cultural feminism, where it's not about equality because we're not equals, and it's okay to say that. Now it's okay.
Right.
It's an accepted idea that we're not inherently okay. I mean, the exact same, and therefore equality on the basis of just the externals isn't really going to be meaningful. So cultural feminism sometimes goes by accepting that the difference, and then finding our source of power and empowerment within the differences.
Wow.
So it's not about me trying to become a man, or the man saying, well, you're not enough until you're equal. Just these kind of, we have all these narratives that can mean so many different things depending on our experiences.
Right.
So just this whole feministic idea, the way I'm looking at it, is that we want to find ourselves in what does it truly mean to feel empowered. What does it mean to be a woman, and how is that going to be a source of empowerment for me? That's how I feel. I truly find a lot of empowerment in the fact that I'm a woman. I don't feel like I need to become a man or like I have to prove myself in any way. I don't feel like I have to prove myself anymore. I may have felt like that before, but
that's really interesting that you're saying that you felt like maybe you did feel like that before, and I'd like to hear that as this discussion goes on. But yeah, thank you for
we get all these messages from society, right? That in a sense, when we say you can be anything, it's almost like you can be anything, just don't be just a woman. Sometimes it's like a lot of the push for me in the early days used to be, well, I just want to do something so that I can I can show the world that I'm not just a woman.
Mm.
It's weird. I don't know if this is going to really connect with too many people, but if you grow up in ISKCON and you kind of hear a lot of the narratives that are, I would say, a misrepresentation of the true Vedic woman, actually. There's a lot of stuff that got lost in translation, in my opinion.
Maybe things that Shastra says or things that Prabhupada may have said, then that's misconstrued, you're saying?
Yeah, definitely. In the sense that it's not truly understood because maybe it was out of context or because there's this cultural disconnection. Srila Prabhupada had to literally uproot this culture and replant it in a place where it wasn't native. And so having to re-explain everything in a way that it's bound to have some gaps in understanding and practice.
Right.
And I, for one, definitely felt that growing up. Sorry, I just want to now also go back and just touch on, okay, so we mentioned the feminist aspect, but also the Vedic woman aspect. I feel like even that is quite often a trigger for a lot of people because many people think that women are not regarded, respected, or that it's just somehow oppressed, suppressed. There's a lot of misogyny in the Vedic understanding of women, but I would argue that there isn't. I would argue that it depends on how you're looking at it. It depends on what narrative we're hearing. It depends on who's doing the talking.
Right.
So my experience of it actually is that the real true Vedic woman is one of the most liberated, the most revered, the most respected, the most powerful, empowered woman. So I just want to share that they are not contradictory, actually. Being a woman in ISKCON or being a woman within this Three Dharma doesn't mean that we have to be oppressed or somehow disregarded. So that's part of this discussion today. And
right. It's your experience, and other people's experience can be different, and obviously are. But it's really good to hear your experience because of what you're saying. That has been a very positive experience. I think it's good to balance things out sometimes, right?
Right. Growing up in India and being part of ISKCON in India were actually two different things. It's interesting because contrary to what people think, Indian women are not oppressed. Indian women, the media, the news, and Bollywood, and there's just a lot of noise. There's a lot of noise, and the true essence of how a woman is seen is, in my opinion, completely distorted. And I also noticed that disconnection between just an Indian woman and an experience in ISKCON. And I want to also touch upon that because I really do think that there's just a lot of misunderstanding somehow. That in ISKCON, if you call the Mataji, it's almost like, no. I prefer to be called Prabhu. I mean, no disrespect here. This is not. But in Indian would say. I remember when I'd have my school friends come over to the temple, and they'd be like, and someone would call me Kishori Mataji, and they would just look at me like, what? Like, why are they calling you Mataji? Because in India, Mataji is the highest title. It's not for mortals.
Right.
Use it for normal women. Are you eligible to be Mataji? Because Mataji is like, the supreme position that you can give to a woman. A mother is the highest position that you could give to a woman. So that discrepancy in understanding causes a discrepancy in experience. So if we don't have respect for women or motherhood, then yeah, being called a mother. I remember actually growing up, and then later on, you know, when I did become a mother, people calling me Mother Kishori, and I was like, oh. So that also was like, wait, you know, it takes some getting used to.
I think what the argument for the Prabhu and Mataji thing is that they want to kind of, I mean, I don't have any preference either way. Like, if you want me to call you Prabhu, then I will do that. But I'm just saying that that they want to kind of equal the playing field, so to say. That if we're going to call Prabhu men Prabhu, then we should call women Prabhu as well.
Absolutely, yeah, and I get it. I you know, I've heard a lot of both sides.
Yeah, I know you get it,
but my take on it is
right. Your take, yeah.
I would only get hurt or insulted by it depending on how I look at the term Mataji, depending on how I anyway, I think we might be digressing here, but but the original point was that the Indian woman, or, you know, I'm not saying it's synonymous with the Vedic woman, but I'm talking about traditional Indian values of who a woman is. It's not a derogatory term. It's not someone who has to. It's not someone who has to prove herself. It's not someone who is disrespected or thought of it as a second-class citizen. No, it's so that wasn't my experience at all. But growing up in ISKCON, and I want to be very clear. I am a very ardent follower of ISKCON. That's my life and soul. Like,
yes.
The teachings of Srila Prabhupada are, you know, that's what I live by. I try, but I had a pretty a hard time coming to terms with a lot of the ideas of women and womanhood, and that were being thrown around within ISKCON.
Right.
Like, commonly being told, you know, women are less intelligent, or that's not something you would hear like on the streets or in families in India. That's not something people talk.
Right. That's exactly. You don't hear that. Like that's such a good point. That's such a simple point.
It's a really simple thing. So that's why when I feel like when people think of Indian women in general, they think, oh, well, they must be oppressed because, well, they get told they're less intelligent, but they don't.
No, they don't. Yeah, right. I mean, I can't say that because I'm not a woman, but what you're saying is making
narrative.
sense.
But it depends on the narrative. So
right.
So that is actually my conclusion now. It depends on the narrative. Depends on who's speaking and what agenda they have.
Right.
So obviously, as I tell my story, I'd like to also later on maybe readdress the idea that, so what did Srila Prabhupada mean when he said women are less intelligent? Does that mean he's wrong? Does that mean we're wrong? Does that mean what's happening?
Yeah.
Is it Srila Prabhupada's fault? I remember thinking when I was younger that, well, maybe he got it wrong, because I'm not less intelligent. Clearly, my exam scores will tell you now.
Right.
I was a pretty good student, you know. Top of the class my whole academic experience. So that wasn't something I could swallow. So even though I had such a beautiful, blissed out like childhood, grew up in a temple, parents were amazing preachers and fully dedicated servants of Srila Prabhupada, there was still a lot of disconnect. There's something going on that didn't make sense, that didn't add up, and it caused actually a lot of friction even in their personal lives. This kind of misunderstanding about the role of a woman, or the position of a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really curious because my father was born Indian Brahmana.
Right.
So, and my mom is Catholic. She was quite spiritual and religious growing up, and she wanted to become a nun.
Wow.
So it made sense to join the Hare Krishnas. Anyway, it's not my story to tell. That's not the story I'm telling today, but there was, growing up, I was like, I'm so inspired. This is so incredible. And yet I'm so confused. What's going on? Why is there this disconnect between this incredibly deep philosophy, which makes sense, and I'm experiencing the joy. I'm, going to Mangal Arati. I'm living a temple life, and it's so much fun. It's full of life, and yet, seeing this disconnect, seeing that I might be feeling marginalized and not respected, or not that my father was disrespectful at all. He never once thought of not sending me to school. I went to normal public school. I was constantly debating with him. He used to call me Champli Bai. Gujarati samjho cho naam?
Yeah, totally.
Thodu. Champli Bai is someone who's always
Champli Bai. Okay, right.
having a lot of opinions,
Right.
Clearly very opinionated. No good. No, no. So he would say, you should become a lawyer, Kishori. You can always convince people you're right.
Wow.
So he wasn't the one who was making me feel these things. And yet I was hearing it. All these signals coming along, and I'm just like, it was too much. It was all, it didn't make sense. I couldn't swallow that I was less intelligent. I should not be given any independence. I should be protected. I can't be trusted.
I'm going to interject here. How did you hear about all this stuff about like less intelligent and all this? Like, were you hearing that from people, or is that something you just read?
I think it must have been everything. Maybe Bhagavatam classes, they're given by different people, so many different flavors, and you hear them
in the ISKCON temple atmosphere.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to blame anyone here, or even
of course, no.
And I've come to realize, actually, this has nothing to do with Srila Prabhupada in that sense, because he is the most the one Acharya who's emancipated womankind, liberated women in this Gaudiya Vaishnavism. There's no one else who can compare to what he's done for women. He's given us every opportunity to become equal and to raise ourselves to that platform, or to be accepted on that platform.
Right.
So clearly it wasn't him. So even if you read it, it's almost like, what am I missing here? What is there? Is it just not being understood and therefore not being practiced? Because that's not what he means. That's not what he means. And I can say that now, after coming out the other side. And when you hear something in one phase of your life and it means nothing to you, and you hear it again, at a different point in your life, and you're like, bling.
Yeah, totally.
So those moments have happened for me again and again with what Srila Prabhupada is saying. Like, I know in my heart that he almost doesn't mean that women are less intelligent. And I'll get to that point. I do want to address that later. But anyways, long story short, I couldn't swallow it. I was like, well, if he got this wrong, he probably got everything wrong. So I'm out of here.
Wow.
In a nutshell, I kind of, I was like, I'm just going to do my own thing. A few of us were a lot of siblings. We went to America, and put myself through college and all that in LA. So it went, a little village girl, kind of. I consider myself a village girl. I was born in Vrindavan, and then I ended up in LA when I was less than 18.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Your whole family, or just your siblings, or how did that work?
Yeah, so my siblings, me, Nandu, Balaram, Rupa, my younger brother. I've got 5 brothers, 3 of us sisters, so there's 8 of us.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I grew up in Ahmedabad, even though we're between Ahmedabad and Vrindavan. We spent a lot of time in Vrindavan. My mom made it a point to go to Vrindavan for all of our births. So yeah, you know, really good experiences there, and understanding that that's this the same theme again, that something is missing. You know, I don't feel comfortable with this version of what is expected of me. That I have to just be this and be doing what I'm told in this little framework. So yeah, 4 of us went to Los Angeles from Ahmedabad.
Wow.
And
that's a huge transition.
Yeah. Definite crazy culture shock. My mom's American, for anyone who don't know, and my father is Gujarati, Indian. Right. So, you know, we're used to the American, you know, sense of humor and language and thought processes and all that. But going to America when you're grew up in a temple your whole life, I never wore Western clothes. I'd never, you know, we had no TV growing up. It's not so all from that to La La Land. That was pretty wild.
And at that point, did you choose like, okay, I want to kind of distance myself from what I grew up with, as far as consciousness? Or,
I mean, it wasn't an active resolve. It was just kind of like, I don't buy into that anymore. I'm gonna see what LA has to offer me. I'm gonna do everything that I feel is right for me. I'm not gonna let someone else tell me how to live my life. And so it was just this sense of, I remember even when I was like 13 or 14, maybe it's just an inherent streak in me that I was like, I'm never gonna get married. I don't want to have kids. I remember thinking that.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah, interestingly. And it might have been because of this disconnect that I'm viewing, you know, that it was a very rocky marriage between my parents, to say the least. And, you know, they're my idols in one sense, in terms of spiritual, just depth and surrender and everything else. But to see this disconnect, to see that, okay, you can have spiritually be so powerful and yet be struggling, you know, that didn't make sense to me. So, right, what was I saying about that? Going to LA. Yeah, it wasn't like I didn't want to be Hare Krishna anymore. It was just more like, I don't want to be told what to do. I'm not going to get married. I'm just going to be an independent woman. I'm going to make my own way. I'm going to put myself through college, become a doctor. I'm going to show the world. It was a bit more of this, well, if you're saying I shouldn't be independent, I'm going to show you how fast I can be independent. It was more of this kind of sense of rebellion and trying to prove myself. And it's unfortunate because, yeah, I feel like a lot of us might be doing that without even realizing it, without realizing that so many of the decisions, the decisions we make in life might be because someone told us we can't, and somehow we're like, well, no, I'll prove to you that I can. So I really believe that the narrative has to shift from one that's especially about women in a very traditional, you know, religious system like ISKCON, from being extremely proscriptive to being prescriptive.
What do you mean by that?
Proscriptive is something that you have to do this. You are allowed to do this. You're proscribed. This is kind of expected from you, and you're demanded. That's what's demanded from you.
Right.
And prescribed is something it's recommended. If someone had just told me, Kishori, good for you. That you can do whatever you want, Kishori, but this is what's going to make you happy.
Right. That's the key, I think.
That would have been a different narrative. And so I feel like a lot of, you can't force. Krishna doesn't force. He gives the entire Bhagavad Gita. He could have told Arjuna, yeah, you just got to do your duty. You just got to do your duty, Arjuna. You're a Kshatriya and you have to fight.
Right.
And just left it at that. He doesn't do that. He gives them all the different yogas. He gives them all the different options. And he says, okay, well, now you choose. So even if it's my dharma, the Stri dharma is my dharma. And I accept it now fully, wholeheartedly, because I see the light. I understand why it's there. But if you tell me that I have to follow it, I'm going to show you how fast I don't have to. Like, that's just a natural, sometimes, and I'm not saying this is the case for everyone. This is just
of course, you can only speak from your own experience, right?
Yeah, and force is just never going to work. And we know that as parents now. You try to force your child to have a spiritual path.
Yeah.
Where are all the guru coolies at?
Good one, yeah.
We'll tell you where we're all at. No.
Yeah.
We're at some point. You just can't force anything in life. Because, this is a path of love. This is a path of so much more than results. And so where's the question of force and love? Where's the question of force?
Right. So when you were so you're in LA, and then you're kind of living your life as like, no, I am going to do what I want, and I'm going to prove everyone wrong that I can do this and do that. So then after that, what happened? Like, you went to school?
Yeah, I mean, LA is an amazing place. Have you been now?
I have been once. Very, very nice place. I loved it.
Yeah, the temple is really incredible.
Beautiful temple.
Probably my saving grace, and a shout out to everyone in New Dwarka Dham for tolerating us Joshis while we were there. No, and just being such wonderful, guides and just presence in our life, because that's really what brought me back. But going back to the idea of LA is. It was living the American dream. It was just doing what needed to be done to feel empowered and a woman of the 21st century, and it was really great. It was quite rewarding. I put myself through uni and UCLA and studied biochemistry. I felt very good about it. I really enjoyed it. I worked hard, 2 jobs, and studied harder and partied harder. Like that was my goal, is to just experience what is out there.
Right.
Because what am I trying to be held back by? What is this? What was this fear-based kind of? Why was I being held back? This was to explore. Just understand, what is the difference? Why is this? Why was I told all this time that I should be afraid of this, or stay away from it, or it's bad for me? Or so just a lot of self-exploration and testing my boundaries, seeing all the different options that would make me happy, as you do, and truly it was an exciting time in my life. The sky was the limit, feeling like no one can hold me back. And that feeling, the sense of self-worth you get that from, having any opportunity at your fingertips. I remember, it's full of producers and actors, and LA is just Gandharva land in one sense. Everyone's just beautiful, and everyone's so trying to be enlightened in some way or the other.
Yeah.
And so being offered like roles in movies in exchange for something, there's always a price to pay.
Really?
No, meaning like, no, not like, not overtly. I'm just
Right.
saying, oh, well, you have to go to this school. You have to go to,
Oh, I see. Right.
meaning like, yeah, no, I didn't mean anything gross there.
Oh,
But
okay.
in terms of, you come to this point in life, especially when you're dealing with just the normal world, normal people, you realize everything comes at a price. Everything has an underlying give and take. And actually, even in spiritual life, if you want to attain something, there's a bit of give and take. There's everything is,
Yeah.
so, or having, thinking that if I just get to this point of becoming a doctor, I'm going to, that's going to be it. This sense of success is going to fill every hole, every kind of insecurity or emptiness that I'm feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I worked harder, got more success, got more, it just felt like it was becoming more and more clear that this isn't what I thought it was. This isn't what it kept getting a little bit more disappointing, a little bit more disillusioned, that by feeling like that void is just not being filled. No matter how independent I become, no matter how self-sufficient I become, because the whole time I'm looking around and obviously all the philosophy is still in the back somewhere. So
Right.
you start measuring everything to that, to that, on that basis. And
So you reach some type of like plateau, and you were still you kind of did whatever you could, but you still felt dissatisfied.
Right. Like this deafening sense of emptiness and unfulfilled desperation that there's just something not right. And it's interesting because you hear devotees be saying that, and that's why they joined. But I had to, I guess, third class intelligence and all that, I had to experience it. I had to actually,
right.
I had to go through that, especially because this narrative was still in the back of my head. So I couldn't just accept my female dharma, there's too much baggage there. So I had to go through that. And so got to the point where I was like, what is it? And then you start remembering Prabhupada saying things like, in the name of feminism, women are being exploited. And maybe it's that coming to light. I'm thinking, and I'm looking around, I'm thinking, okay, well, why am I personally still feeling this sense of, emptiness, this sense of dissatisfaction? And you start exploring the idea that independence, self-sufficiency may not really be the answer. This is my conclusion, because in my fast, bolting race to independence, I realized actually I'm just serving myself. I'm truly just, my world is becoming more and more self-centered. I'm looking at everything from my perspective, and how is that going to actually, that's the reason why it's not working. If you're just serving yourself, it's not going to manifest. There's no chance for actual joy to manifest, because joy comes from serving others. Joy comes from service, and that's once you've heard the philosophy and actually experienced it in your childhood. I guess I had no other option but to come back to that and be like, why was I so happy when I was younger? Why was I so happy when I was, making garlands? I'd come back from school and I'd make garlands for two hours every day.
Wow. And
I was completely blissed out with that, or on Rajmando Parikrama, or like something that you're doing that has a real spiritual depth in it, something you're doing for someone else, something, seva is so profound. It's something we take for granted. Service is something we take for granted, especially in a place like LA. It's like the first thing you'd ask is, what am I getting out of this?
Right.
what am I? That's so. Independence is just it. It hit me that it's not. It wasn't all it was cracked up to be. And slowly, I started trying to put the pieces back together and try to see, okay, well, let's reassess everything. I started reading again and chanting again and trying to find the answers like in my own way. And but like I said, it just hits, right? When you hear it at the right time, when you're ready and you're actually seeking and searching, then when you hear something, it kind of has a completely different experience completely. So I would ask questions like, well, why do I have to have a Sri Dharma? Why can't I just do what everyone else is doing? Why should I be doing something and men be doing something else? Why can't we both just do everything exactly the same?
Right.
We're all spirit souls. Why do we have to have any distinction? And there's one example Prabhupada gives is the hand. The hand, first one example is that they're all different. All our fingers are different. No one finger is any more important than the other. It's just a matter of perception that if we're thinking something is lacking, if we're hearing these things and we're thinking something is missing in me, I need to be more than that, then we're going to feel almost insulted by the role of womanhood that's given. So if the thumb is thinking no, but why can't I be the index finger? It becomes a bit pointless. The hand is thinking, I don't want to put the food in the mouth so that the mouth can taste it. I would like to taste it myself. It's a whole. This is a process, a whole system set up. Krishna set up a system, and we have just role play. It's just role play. I remember hearing this from a devotee. Like, Kishori, it's not that you have to do it. We're just here for a short amount of time, and just if you play along, the whole thing comes together. It's like on a team. Everyone has a slightly different role. Not that one is way more important than the other. I remember hearing that and thinking, at that point, for some reason, it made sense. You know what I mean? Like at any other point, I may not have been ready for it.
You didn't want to play the game.
I didn't want to play the game.
Yeah.
Very good point.
I feel like a lot of people don't want to play the game. I mean, that's just our society at the moment, I feel. But that's really interesting what you're saying, that you didn't understand it. You didn't feel like you were, did you feel like you weren't qualified when you say you're not ready to hear, you weren't ready to hear it? It was not, maybe it's not a qualification, but it's like when you were ready to hear it, then it made sense.
Yeah. Like you're saying, when you're ready to play the game, when you get to the point where you're like, nothing else is making sense. What is it? And the whole point of that role play is that if the hand doesn't put the food in the mouth, it can't enjoy the benefit of that food anyway. So in order for us to actually achieve our full potential and to be happy in this body that's been given, actually in this body that we kind of chose, that was another thing that really hit me. I was like, we're not randomly given a male and female body. Guna karma vibhagasha. Like,
yeah,
the varnas are made according to our guna and karma. Our body that we achieve is because of the consciousness that I created, which must have meant that that's something that I want to enjoy in this life.
Right.
So there was no point in me not accepting that there is a difference between me and a male counterpart. Like there's, I felt like, okay, if I just try to understand what it is to be a woman, maybe it will help me connect better with how to actually fill that void, how to actually understand what my purpose is, and then be able to maybe achieve it. So I mean, it's hard. It's hard these days because I feel like a lot of us are like going through different phases of life and feeling the sense of dissatisfaction and emptiness, or straight up depression, the despair that why isn't this making sense? I've got everything. I'm successful.
Right.
Then why isn't it making me happy? And yeah.
Going back to your story, so how did you ultimately move away from that dissatisfaction to I guess, I mean, it's been a number of years between now and then, but tell us a little bit about how you kind of move forward from that.
I just graduated, and this was, oh God, I don't remember, 2007 or something. Yeah. And so a good 2 years after that, I kind of just took to regroup to kind of figure out what this all meant. So, like I said, it involved getting my sadhana back up, because I tried to I tried to remember that was a happy place for me. There was something that truly made me happy, and starting to really analyze the philosophy behind the Sri Dharma, trying to understand why is it different, and then try to kind of come from a place of acceptance as opposed to a place of defensiveness. Like, no, that's not for me. Now it's more like, okay, let me see, what is there in this? Why would I be happy being a mother? Like, I don't.
Before, can you define Sri Dharma for those of us who don't know, who are listening?
Okay, so Sri Dharma is, I mean, there's so much. I mean, I'm not an expert on it, but my understanding of it is that the highest dharma that we could, the highest form of joy that we can feel in this life, of fulfillment, the most spiritual thing actually that we could do, is to become a mother, is to be married and become a mother and attain perfection in life through serving your husband and your children and your family, and thereby serving society. It's like one of the greatest privileges that we could have. That's how I look at it now. I didn't always, because I had no intention of getting married. Kids.
Right.
So it's been a journey to get here to be like, okay, now my perspective is that it's truly a privilege to have someone in your life who you love and trust, and who you can serve. And it's a privilege to have children in your life who you can serve, with the view that these are gifts of Krishna. They're small representations of Krishna in our life. And when we serve the devotees like this, that's our direct connection. This service is the path. This is the direct connection. And it's hard. It's hard to explain that to someone who is not, like serving your husband. Why should I do that?
Yeah, I mean, sure, that triggers a lot of people.
A lot of people. But it's a two-way street. It's not like he's not serving me or the kids. It's, right. Like, this is a team. So just as much as there's Sri Dharma, there's also, Pati Dharma, or like, there is. So this is what I'm talking about, the narrative. It's not like, people have so many misconceptions about the Ramayana or the Mahabharata, because they look at it and they think it's just abuse of women. but if you go, you peel the layers and you realize, no, it's so far from what's actually taking place. But peeling of the layers is absolutely essential, like getting down to understanding what is dharma. Dharma is, it's for our benefit. Dharma is not there so that Krishna can benefit. Dharma is there so that we can enjoy, we can find peace and happiness and find the path and then, you know, make those steps back to Godhead.
Right.
So, where were we talking about? Yeah, there's a trigger, you know, serving your husband, but without service, let's just dial it back. Like the idea of service, that's the key. That we cannot achieve perfection. We cannot attain the supreme unless we serve. So doesn't it just make sense to kind of serve the husband? So like, if you're gonna have to serve somebody, you might as well serve the person you love and you've ended up with.
Right. I think before you go into that, I think what the issue there is that people agree with that. They want to serve, whether it's your husband or wife. In this case, we're talking about husbands, but people have served people who have taken advantage of that.
Yeah.
You know, the husband is not someone, they took advantage of that, and then they abused that person, and then so many people have that experience that, serve the husband, that's bogus, like this guy was a total, you know, he's jerk to me and to everyone, and so
no room for that at all. There's zero tolerance. I mean, this is what I mean when it's essential to almost attach this feminism aspect to this. That's why I have to say Vedic feminism, because it has to be qualified. Now you have to qualify your statement. You have to actually explain it. Be like, there is Sri Dharma, but there's no room for force. There's no room for abuse. Like, we have to actually state those things now. Back in the day, maybe not so much.
Right.
Now it has to be explained and talked about and actually have a dialogue about it, because, I mean, that to me is a no-brainer. How can you cannot enforce that if you're coming together with a partner, husband, wife, coming together, and the husband says, your Sri Dharma is to serve me. That's not how it goes down.
Right. No, it doesn't.
It doesn't. Like the reason why I want to serve my husband with everything I've got is because he is such a wonderful human being. He would never dare to he would never even dream about trying to force that on me. So if men listening to this are looking for a partner, meaning if anyone's looking for a reasonable situation, the first thing we should understand is, how can I serve the other person? That should be our goal. Yeah. And coming together with a person, like, how can I serve you?
Yeah.
Not that, oh, well, I need to find a wife who can serve me and fan me. And like, that's just, it's guaranteed failure. Like I said earlier, there's no room for force. You know, if the supreme person doing force. And even when you look at the stories from the Bhagavatam, you look at Sati and Shiva, you know, when she wanted to go off to her father's place, it's not like he says, Parvati ji, you know, you can't go because I am all knowing, you know.
Yeah.
Shiva is the supreme person minus 8%, right?
Right.
So he knows what's gonna happen. He knows she's gonna go up in flames. But he doesn't force her. He doesn't say you can't go, you shouldn't go. He says, yeah, you shouldn't go, but there's just no question of it. Even in the Ramayana, like when Ram's going off into Vanvas, he actually tells Sita, you should stay here because it's not safe, it's not going to be comfortable. You stay. He tries to tell her to stay. Now, she's fiery. This is the thing. They don't understand that actually these women are empowered. She's like, no, I'm coming with you. There was no room for negotiation there. She actually got upset with him. So, right. If they're not forcing, what chance does anyone else have? We can't force the dharma of the other person. That's not what dharma rakshita. What is it? Dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. So the dharma works for the person who decides themselves that they're going to, do the dharma themselves. Like you can't be like, your dharma is this, and therefore you must follow. Like, I have to decide that, and then dharma is there. for me because I am following it in my life. So dharma protects those who follow dharma. Dharma protects those who protect dharma. So
now,
yeah.
circling this back to your story, so then you got married, and you
Yeah.
how did that like transpire? How did you find? I mean, Birju, for those who know him, he's an amazing person. I just wanted to give him a shout out because whenever I meet him, I feel this like real sense of calm. Like he's just a very calming person, like to be around. I just love that. I see all day. It's like a little different.
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't been, you know, if you can't tell already, I'm a bit of a firecracker, right? Like he's the yin to our yang, you know.
Right.
So grateful, and right. So, like I said, I kind of realized I couldn't do this on my own, right? Like you come to that point where you're like, okay, I can't do this on my own. I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be alone and independent and self-sufficient. Like, so, okay, I need to find someone. I need to find someone, and you realize that thing has to be lasting. It has to be something that's permanent, so that you can truly get the benefit of it and enjoy it. And so, like I said, for a good 2 years, I regrouped, did all the things that made sense again, like chanting and reading and coming back to all the basic tenets of Krishna consciousness.
Yeah.
And then my father was always in the background trying to be like, okay, when are you getting married? You know, like trying to send me people that he thought were suitable or during this whole time, obviously they did not want me to go to America. You know, my parents were like, that's a bad idea. You shouldn't go. But over time, he came around. He saw that I was working hard and I was doing well, and then so he finally was like, okay, I've met this guy. He's really special because he's been around. That's the thing about parents; they know us really well.
Right.
They know us really well. We don't give them that credit. We don't understand the power of parents. Like we think
Totally.
They don't know. They're not from this generation. And finally, like the first time in my life, I was like, okay, Mataji, I'm trying to follow what you have taught me. That getting the blessings of devotees of your parents is actually tantamount in our spiritual life. There's no question of making spiritual progress if we disrespect our parents or somehow. Anyway, so I was open to meeting somebody that my father, recommended. He'd met Birju and he was like, this is one in a million kind of guy. So like you said, he's so like respectful and
yes.
Just the sadhu.
Yeah.
So we started talking, and so basically this is an introduced marriage. Like I was introduced by my father, and I can say with full confidence that a lot of it has to do with becoming receptive to the mercy of and kind of the blessings of parents. When you come to recognize the philosophy for what it is and really imbibe it into your life, it starts manifesting. The results start manifesting, and I would really give the credit for Birju to my father and my parents, because that was my first active step of surrender, of being like, okay, Krishna, like I accept I am not doing well, like 100% alone and just doing my own thing is not working for me.
Right.
And I'm going to try your way now. So show me what you got. And little things started happening in my life, and just that led up to this point where by the time I met Birju, I was so convinced. I was like, oh yeah, this makes complete sense. There wasn't a shred of doubt in my mind at that point that this process works. By then, a few things had happened, and so it's almost like I had to go through this phase in Los Angeles where to truly appreciate the blessing and the gift that was coming my way. And it was almost as if I didn't, I would probably have not been able to accept it, not been able to bring it into my life. Right. So yeah, we got married in, I think, end of 2009. We've been married 12 years coming up this year.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
4 kids.
4 kids.
Amazing.
From not wanting, you know, a 13-year-old me to not wanting kids.
Not wanting kids, not wanting to be married. And
yeah. And it's just, you know, what can I say? I truly feel saved. I feel like I couldn't have chosen something more fulfilling. And that's basically the point of today's conversation, is to encourage anyone else who might be feeling like this path is limiting, it's degrading, it's whatever reservations we may have. I would really urge you to just try it. That what's the harm? What's the worst that could happen if we submitted ourselves to just a good person? Doesn't have to be, you know.
right.
We have a lot of baggage as well about what a perfect person would be like. That's the next thing. It's interesting because we are all looking for that unalloyed and uninterrupted love. We're all looking for it. So we have this really high standard that we put up for other people, that my husband should be like this, my wife should be like this, but there's very little that we start off giving. And that makes it impossible to manifest. It makes it impossible. So if we want something of value to manifest, we're going to have to give something of value, which would be our true self. We'd have to give. We'd have to truly surrender to the situation, to the person, truly surrender. And then that unalloyed love, because everything is, you know, that love that we seek with Krishna, there are glimpses of that in this experience, and we're supposed to, so that we can practice it, so that we can go back home.
I mean, to kind of like look at it from the other side, play devil's advocate a little. Okay, Kishori, you really lucked out. You know, you got a perfect life, basically. You know, you got wonderful kids, you got a great husband. I didn't have the same experience. I had experience which was very different from you. And what do you tell someone like that who you're telling them, okay, you know, you should surrender to someone, but like it's really, there's a lot more bad experiences, I feel.
Yeah. It's isn't it? It's kind of this negative cycle. I feel like the world is getting so sucked into this black hole of self-servingness that it's not just, it's hard to find good men and good women. I mean, no offense anywhere. I'm just saying we're having a hard time finding anyone who will go that extra mile. It's hard. And I've, you know, been there. I've experienced that. And I can still see it all around me, that it's extremely, it's a matter of, there is a matter of luck. I don't really believe in luck. There's no such thing as luck in spiritual life, but because everything is a matter of karma and blessings. But at the same time, I recognize that, but I do not think it's impossible. There are certain steps that I would humbly share that I do think made a difference. I do think that we have to prepare ourselves mentally before we go looking for that person. We have to have a vision of what it is you want to manifest in your life. If we want to manifest someone who's good looking at the expense of good character, then that's, you know, that's what's going to come your way. It's almost a matter of you yourself, me, myself, I should just talk in my own, me manifesting within my own actions and my own consciousness what I want the other person to have. If we attract what we, give off. So there had to be a period of real sincere, in my life, there was a period of real sincere, reflection and trying to understand what I did want and what I didn't want. So that's why when I say that when I met Birju, it was like instant. I knew that this is what I'm looking for. Because a lot of the times we don't have that vision, like clarity of vision of how to manifest, because we don't really know what we're looking for. Our checklist is so long and it's full of stuff that doesn't really matter. What I mean there is I've actually suggested a lot of couples that I'm like, oh, what about this person? And they'll be like, nah, not my type, not my kind of thing. So they'll like find something ridiculous, like, oh, he's too short, or he's like weird looking, or he's like,
right.
And I just don't know what to say, because that vision is what's not going to work. You're looking for something that doesn't truly stand the test of time. I'm not saying you don't have to be attracted. Like, clearly, you have to have attraction and some basic sense of compatibility, of course. But the top of the list should be some character. Like, what is this person capable of respecting other people? Is this person capable of serving someone else?
Right. Yeah.
Like, that to me was clear as night and day. That those are the qualities we should, and therefore, if as a society we looked for that, we'd be encouraging that in each other. As a woman, if I'm looking for that, then it would encourage the men around me to be like, to step up.
Right.
If we're interacting on a much more superficial level, it's hard. It's hard where we're creating that negative cycle where we're saying, well, the other issue I have is like, not issue I have, I should say, the other issue that I see is that when we exert too much independence, people are gonna get triggered by this. It almost scares.
By the way, the comment section is like 50 comments, and I haven't even clicked on it because I'm just like, I want to wait for that. I want to wait for that. But yeah, please go ahead. Say your
remember being that person who used to just be like, I don't need you, dude. Like, I have no need for you in my life. Being in that phase in my life where I was like, I don't need anyone. You hear all these that's just like memes and the new age philosophy, like, I don't need anyone.
Right.
If that's the path that we're living life on, like completely independent, completely self-sufficient, that's what we're telling other people, and that's what we're going to attract. We're going to attract that person who thinks you don't need anyone, so therefore is only there for something less meaningful, something more superficial. Right. But if you you have to show some sense of acceptance and adaptability and kind of compatibility. People always say, especially women telling other women, don't settle for anything. Don't compromise. This is like don't compromise on anything in life. Don't let anyone tell you what to do. And I remember being that person. I remember being that person thinking, yeah, why should I let anyone tell me what to do? But so my point is, it's a journey to get to that point where you realize, I would love to have someone to talk to about whether I should do this or not.
Right.
Like to have that person in our life is a privilege. To have that person in your life that you can depend on is a privilege. To be dependent, on someone who is trustworthy. So, but the thing is, we have to manifest that. We have to allow that person to come into our life if we want it. Does that make sense? It's like,
yeah, no, it does.
If we're so aggressive almost in our being, the way we go about our life, we're not giving that person a chance to enter into that life.
Very interesting. This is not something you hear all the time. And to hear your experience is it's very.
I had to readjust my entire psyche. I had to be like, okay, not only do I accept I need someone, but now I would like to invite that person into my life. And it actually, once you make that shift in consciousness, your actions follow. And then you can do something like go to your father and be like, you know what, Mataji, like, I trust you enough, and then I'm going to give this a shot. Because otherwise, we're so, a lot of people even hearing that I would submit to my father's suggestion seems so foreign to a lot of people. Like, what?
Right.
Like, but it's not by chance. I know people want to say, oh, you got lucky with Virju. I would like to say that it's not entirely by chance, that we have to make some adjustments in our life,
right,
for that to, and you don't have to look at the word of compromise and adaptability as if it's a disease or taboo. That is the essence of marriage with anyone. It's the like, I mean, if you you're not going to last long in this very difficult situation called marriage if you don't have any adaptability or and this is the problem. Like, we're, especially as women, we're being fed this kind of distorted version of feminism, or whatever you want to call it, the sense of self-worth, which is misplaced. It's not coming from a place of genuine understanding of what the feminine power is. It's not going to empower us.
To ask you a question about that, we say we're the spirit soul, and there's no difference between men and women. So then why do we emphasize the differences when we're actually meant to get off the bodily platform?
Right.
Emphasize the differences, meaning like, men's on one side, women's on the other side. Sometimes women can do some certain things that men can do, like in India, this and that. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay. So you mean in action, basically.
Like why create so much segregation and kind of like emphasize the bodily concept?
Okay. So maybe I just step back and talk about, well, what is the difference if we're all the same?
Right.
Actually, over time, I've come to understand that this obsession with everyone being equal is a little bit Mayavad philosophy. It's like everything is the same.
Interesting.
Everything is the same. And of course, we're all spirit souls. We're all Prakriti. Krishna is the only Purusha. Of course. But we take on a certain body for a certain reason. And like I said already, it's essential to understand that it's not by force. It's not just, someone else is doing. Like, it is in our best interest to accept it and actually grow from it, because we wanted that. And I would like to highlight that my experience in motherhood is literally the most liberating and enjoyable experience I had. Of course, it's difficult. Like, I've lost half my hair, probably half my brain cells. And it's hard as anything, right?
Right.
But it's the most rewarding thing. So it's not about, it's about understanding the magnitude of how great it is to be able to, have a child or be a woman or understand the difference of the psyche. So there is a difference when we take this body, and in trying to nullify that difference, it's actually, it's not going to work at all. It's not going to help us go take any steps towards that ultimate goal. And like I said, I really believe it's this Mayavad mentality that everything is the same. And the liberation is in the nuance almost. It's an understanding that the psyche of women is different than men for a very specific reason, and it's important that we imbibe that for the benefit of the family, for the benefit of the children, and for our own sake. Stri, the word stri, according to Sanskrit, is one who expands, right? Vistar, to expand. Not just physically. Yeah, I have the ability to, my husband would say when I was pregnant, I looked like a snake who had eaten an elephant. I could expand. Like, that's crazy. If you think about the physical capabilities of a female body, is just
amazing,
mind-boggling.
Yeah,
that's just one aspect. But even mentally, emotionally, let's talk about emotions. Having one child and then the next one comes along, the amount of power that I have to expand my heart and take in this new soul is just almost more important than my own soul. Like, to expand my heart to this degree where I feel like it's going to burst every moment with this overwhelming sense of love. My husband doesn't get to feel those same emotions, even though he's the father. He doesn't have that capacity of expanding, opening up like a woman would. The psyche, even the thoughts. And we, as women, I don't know if you'll be able to attest to this, most women I have met, and I don't call me sexist, because it's just the reality. We overanalyze everything. Our minds are racing constantly, a little bit self-critical. There's just so much doubt and questioning, and of course capacity to understand. I mean, I fully believe we're extremely intelligent human beings. Right. There's no doubt in my, we're extremely capable, and the mind is just, but this expansive nature is very prevalent amongst women. You will not, well, I haven't heard a man, especially a father, doubt his parenting skills. I haven't had huge conversations with men who are like, oh my God, am I being a good father? Oh my God, what am I doing with my life? Like, constantly in this. I mean, I know people are going to freak out that I'm saying this, but I have a lot of friends who are mothers, and it's almost universal.
Right.
Mothers have this existential, because the mind is constantly, and therefore this Purusha is absolutely essential. Stri and the Purusha, this yin and yang, and without understanding this difference, we won't be able to even tap into this Purusha structured, steady energy is absolutely essential in my life, in my experience. It just provides that steadiness and the security and that I need while I am expanding and having children and expanding my heart and having these incredible experiences. I have the shelter of this Purusha energy, and it's like this Stri psyche is like just very fluid and adaptable and able to mold into any shape. But without that shape, it's almost, how can it reach its potential? It's like a glass of water. Without the actual glass, the water, you can't utilize it. It'll just fall. You won't be able to drink it. Well, you could, but you still have shape. You need, for it to be used, it needs to have a shape. Same with an empty cup. There's no point in having just the structure without something to fill it with. So it's not like one is more important than the other. They're both doing a very essential role in Krishna's creation. Now, I feel like Grihastha ashram is not acknowledged enough for the valuable service that it does. I feel like if we could acknowledge that men and women coming together with this goal of service, serving Krishna, serving with having children who will actually benefit the world is this. It can't be overstated. The importance cannot be.
I mean, I say that women in this movement are doing the greatest service, the highest service, because they are raising the future of our society. And I always am so appreciative of mothers, because it's a very difficult job. I see it.
Mothers and fathers. I mean,
Mothers and fathers. Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing it together. We're doing
Yeah,
it
we're in it together.
And and I absolutely agree that it's the most valuable service we could be doing for this planet. Of course, other than becoming pure devotees ourselves. Like,
right.
That's the Paramartha. And then
yes, exactly. That's the highest thing.
Also, you have to have this idea, and it's so interesting because we're coming back to the differences. Krishna is. I'm trying to share this idea of how to maybe better accept the differences. I studied biochemistry. It's a bit of a, I like hormones. So women, we're full of estrogen, amongst many other things. And did you know that estrogen it's a natural painkiller? That when it really spikes in women, there's also a concurrent spike in like serotonin or dopamine, and those are the happy hormones. That's what makes us happy, right? So it's not like Krishna just gave us this hard wiring and then left it to us. Everything within our psyche, our physiology, our actual, externals, everything is molded and created for a specific reason. And the more we deny that, women are twice as likely to get to experience depression, because we're denying it more and more. We're trying so hard to not be women, to not give in to these kind of softer, whatever it is, like, or we don't have that external structure to this three tendency. If we don't have that external, it really causes a lot of disturbance. So not only have we been given this natural analgesic for having, when we have children, when we get pregnant or have babies, and constantly been gifted this kind of high happy hormones to go along with the price that we pay of having our periods. Women birth is considered slightly a lower birth, and this is my take on it. That yes, we do have to. We're paying a few extra. The price is slightly different to a male body. Like, we can't deny that. We can't. I don't look at it now as if it was a curse, as if it was something that's oppressing me. I don't look at it like that anymore. I think, wow, Krishna, it's just so amazing how that the most joyous thing that I could have done was become a mother, and to facilitate that, you've kind of given me everything I needed. You've prepared me internally, mentally, in every way possible, and actually that makes me so happy to see that I'm, and it reinforces your feeling of belonging. You're like, yes, it's all working. All the three layers are working in sync. And yeah,
that's amazing explanation. I mean, what do you say to people who come to you for advice, and say that I don't have the same thought that you have, because you have gone through other things and you came out the other side with this kind of conception, but I haven't had that. So what would you say to help someone? Do they need to be helped, or do they need to have the same experience?
I'm a firm believer that everyone comes to whatever conclusion that they want at their own time. And I'm not saying that they have to come to my conclusion at all. This is I have accepted this conclusion because I could see that it works it works in my life. So when someone says, I just don't believe in anything you're saying, Kishori, I'm like, it's fine. That's absolutely, you're entitled to that. There's no question of force. There's and it's possible. It's possible to find joy in other service. You can obviously, you can not have kids or not be married, and doesn't mean you won't have a fulfilling life. I do think it might be a little bit harder, like, because it's just the physiology that's made a certain way, and it's if you've had kids, you're less likely to get cancer, like certain cancers, and that, or if you've had kids, your menopausal experience will be slightly different. That there's a certain rhyme and reason to how actually having children does, in the long run, also benefit women. So it's hard to this isn't meant to be forced on anyone.
Yeah.
You really truly have had traumatic experiences with it. Fair enough, you get to decide. Like Krishna says at the end, you decide.
Right.
This is never meant to be forced on anyone. But I'm just sharing my story so that if just in the slight chance that it would inspire someone to think that actually the Vedic version of women is not misogynistic. It's completely logical and scientific. It is the way it is because we're built a certain way. And the more I accept that, I mean, in terms of the life that I live, the more rewarding it is for me personally. So just like, I mean, when you have children, again, the same kind of happy hormones are going off. Serotonin is one of it's a very fascinating one. This hormone specifically, apparently, the more selfless acts you do, the more serotonin it releases. Selfless acts. It's not about like exercising or meditating. That's like endorphins. And then if you have like achievements, you get like dopamine. But serotonin is specifically associated with doing selfless activities, something for someone else. And then Krishna releases some serotonin. And, coincidentally, serotonin is the one, happy hormone that is used most often in antidepressants. So to me, that's like a little bit of a connection that people are feeling emptiness because we're not doing enough for other people. We're not doing selfless acts. And therefore, we're actually not creating enough serotonin in our brains. And therefore, we're getting depressed. I mean, this is just obviously, depression is a very serious thing and it's very complicated. But this is just a very small connection that the more we do for others, the happier we become, like truly, like in a chemical, measurable, tangible way, scientific way. This is not something I've made up. This is not something some misogynist has written in the Vedas. This is not something that someone created.
Right.
This is measurable.
So you're saying so biologically, if women do not fulfill their biological right, or I don't know how you want to explain it, but right or
I'm just saying in general,
duty of having children or getting married, then there's a connection between that and not being fulfilled.
Yes, I would go so far as to say that with praying that it doesn't hurt anyone's.
I'm expecting we are going to ruffle some feathers with this conversation, but that's what this whole program is about. And
I would reiterate that it helps. It truly helps that getting with a partner and serving each other, not only in the most ultimate way of reconnecting with Krishna and practicing your bhakti, but just in a material sense. It's essential. We cannot do this on our own. Like, maybe you can, but is it going to be worth it? Like that was my experience. I could do this alone, but at the end of the day, I would be left with my mind.
Mm.
Mind can be the worst enemy. Like, when you become so independent, I could see that the last resort is the mind. And you, how are you going to escape that?
Yeah.
To escape the mind, you've got to serve. You've got to come out of yourself. You've got to do something. So,
Let's
um,
finish your thought, and then we're gonna perhaps take
Oh.
questions.
I mean, I think I've finished it. Just that this is just an opportunity that we could willingly accept.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you can choose not to, but we could willingly accept it. So changing the narrative in our brain, like I'm being forced to do this. Why should I have to do this? If I don't want to do this, who are you to tell me, like, you with your so-called perfect life? Like, that's not what this is about. This is about just expressing that this is an option for our own benefit. It's not being forced on anyone.
Right.
That it works. It actually works. So I hope I'm not.
No. This is, you're speaking from your own experience, and I appreciate that. And people can take it or leave it, to be honest. Let's look at the comments. All right, here we go. Almost 100 comments here. Hare Krishna. Beautiful discussion. Very nice. Okay. I don't see any questions right now. Fantastic.
Oh, can I go back to one more hormone thing?
Oh, go for it. Yeah, I'll look through these comments while
I did say I'd come back to that point where Srila Prabhupada says women are less intelligent, right? So apparently there's a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine, right? And that's just a normal processing hormone, and it's inversely connected to serotonin. People are going to be like, why is she talking about hormones so much? But the biochemist. But so acetylcholine is generally responsible for movement and focus and alertness. But it's also responsible for recall and memory and cognitive function and like intelligence. So do you see where I'm going with this? So generally, if you have a lot of serotonin, it's inversely related to this kind of cognitive functioning. And I remember thinking, whenever I got pregnant, when your estrogen is super high and your serotonin is really high, are you following me?
Right.
You get this fog. You get this. They call this new mother's fog, or like this, a lot of different terms. When you become a new mother, you kind of get this fog, like
you don't know what day it is.
Yeah.
It's Tulsi all the time. If Tulsi's listening, if I ask her what day it is today, she doesn't know what day it is.
Yeah, because we're actually so busy being happy.
Yeah, right. Yeah, totally.
Serotonin in our body, like, because we're doing the selfless act all day long.
Right.
Serving someone else all day long, and it's allowing, us to be happy and feel that fulfillment, but it's inversely related to our cognitive functioning. So, I mean, I know I'm not a less intelligent human being. Like, I know that. I have no doubts about it.
Right.
But I have experienced that somehow over time I'm kind of a little bit foggy, like the way my recall is not the same, and so I truly, Srila Prabhupada saying women are slightly a little bit less intelligent. I'm like, okay. I'm not trying to say this is the basis of it, but I found it really fascinating when I came across this little piece of, like, naturally women that have children, the hormones work in certain way that we don't actually care about. that it's almost like, how in bhakti, jnana and karma is like a byproduct and it's not so important anymore. That's the way I look at it. I'm like, I'm so busy being so fulfilled and happy here that intelligence is kind of, it's a secondary thing. I don't need it right now. No.
Right.
People are gonna like not like that very much, but I found it really fascinating that there is some scientific basis, some very, very small connection here that says we're getting a little bit less intelligent when we're so caught up with this little bubble of happiness that we built around ourselves. So that was
Very interesting way to explain it. Let's look at this question here. What does independence mean to you? Solitude, selfishness, empowerment, autonomy. How do you define it so I can follow?
Okay, that's a good question. Thank you, Alina. Independence, the way I hear it usually, is so that I can do whatever I want to do. That's the line. If you feel like I want to be able to do whatever I want to do, that it's like Raman asked me the other day, he's like, Mama, he has some pocket money that from presents and stuff. And he's like, I want to buy my own phone. He's got a device, but it's got like family link. It's locked. So he can only do it for 7 hours, right? It's got like limitation.
Yes.
And he's like, I just want to be able to be on my phone all the time or whenever I want to. I want to be on it when I want to do whatever I want to. So he wants his independence. He wants to be him, his own self.
Right.
And that's usually the thing. If we are able to self-regulate in that sense, if Raman was truly able to self-regulate, I wouldn't have to lock his phone so that he wouldn't be fully independent. This is the issue I find that with most of us, we think we want to be completely, I'm not talking about women here, so don't become like triggered that she said that. Every one of us, living entities, we can't truly self-regulate. We don't have any sense control. We're so triggered by all of our desires and everything that's going on all around us that independence is not good for us. I'm talking about men as well. I'm not talking about just women.
Yeah.
So I would like to really clarify that here. So I recognized in myself that all I thought about at any phase of this clear independence was, I just want to do whatever I want to. I don't want to have someone else telling me what to do because I don't want to serve that. I don't want to serve their expectations. And this is actually the crux of the disease. This is why we're here in this material world. We don't want to serve anyone else. We want to be able to serve ourselves.
Right.
And that's not just for women, it's for men as well. So real independence, the way I see it now, is to be able to be dependent on someone that I can trust, someone that I can love, someone that I can serve with. Real independence, Prabhupada used to say, is to be dependent on Krishna. That's true independence, because then we can actually be liberated of even the last master, the mind. That's actually the true independence, would be independence from our mind.
Right.
Sorry, I don't know if that answered any of that question, but
I think it did. Let's look at another. Here's an appreciation. Kishori's happiness is the strongest evidence for me that Sri Dharma can work. This is from Jai Jagannath Prabhu, who is a big podcaster. Also, go check out his podcast on Bodhika. He's a dear friend of mine. But yeah, I mean, that's a great point.
Thank you. Oh my gosh.
What a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing your story. Of course, if all of us had the same luck in marriage with a devotee, we could all believe this is the only path for women in Krishna consciousness, right?
Okay.
Any advice to? Yeah, do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's still a trigger for me when people say you got lucky.
Right.
I'm just gonna acknowledge that is a bit of a trigger, because so many people are like, even moms will approach me and be like, can you find someone like that for me? And of course, it is a matter of luck. But I truly believe that if we do the internal work, we can manifest that. Power is in our hands, that we can manifest that. And I'm not trying to take the credit away from luck or Krishna and my parents. But for that to for my father to be able to suggest that to me, I had to be, how big of a step that was. Like, I was living life in LA, every friend of mine from LA was like, what the heck are you doing? Like,
Oh, that you were like going to surrender.
like, what are you doing? Why would you meet somebody, your father? So
An arranged marriage, essentially, right?
yeah, or I call it introduced.
Introduced, right.
But you have to be willing to take that step and go against the grain and situate. Like, if you truly believe that I am willing to do this Sri Dharma, then that person who will do his Pati Dharma will manifest in your life. I feel like that. That if we can get beyond our own selfish motivation, so we can get beyond the superficiality. I need a good-looking guy. I need someone who's like this, someone who's really ambitious and super successful. Like, just for the record, my husband is not ambitious. It's like one of his favorite qualities, and he is not like a super ambitious kind of guy. He's a sadhu.
He is.
He's self-satisfied. The most profound thing that I noticed when I met him was that there was no need for him to pretend. He was so self-sure that not one line coming out of his mouth was something to impress me. Right. He just stood his ground and was just like, kind of like, cool. Like, just use.
Wow.
Like, I had never met anyone who wasn't trying to impress me.
Right.
It was. So we're looking for we have to search for someone who has that Atmaram kind of sense in them. Like, and if you're listening, but same kind of work goes both ways. If we can choose to interact with the opposite sex or whatever your choice is on a much deeper level. It has to be on a deeper level for that to manifest. I hope. Sorry.
Right. No, don't be sorry. This is kind of off topic, but any advice to first generation devotees whose parents are not Krishna consciousness, briefly, so we can continue on with the topic.
Whose parents are not KC. I'm wondering what context.
Like if you're converted to Krishna consciousness, like you.
Oh, right. Okay. So in terms of
how to relate with your parents if your parents are not devotees.
Oh, not about how to understand women or Sri Dharma. Okay.
Oh, maybe.
I don't know.
Answer it that way. Yeah, that's great. Let's connection.
Let's go with how to relate with your parents. Maybe this has to do with me saying that we have to get blessings from our parents.
Yes.
Beautiful thing about blessings, this is my favorite part about it, is that it actually has very little to do with the person, that position holder. Let me explain. One of the most glorious women in entire Vedic understanding is Mandodari. You know who that is?
Yes, Mandodari, the wife of Ravana.
Yeah, right? Like, so Ravana, it's not him giving the blessings to Mandodari. She's serving him. But the blessings are not necessarily coming from this position holder. They're just a position holder. Our husband or our wife, our children, if we serve them, our parents, if you serve your parents, you serve your guru, even if the guru has a fall down. Actually, this is the crux. This is the most beautiful thing for me. Because Krishna, he's the one who's bestowing the blessing. Now, we're not trying to sidestep the guru here. I'm not like, let's just... You have to serve that position holder. There is no other way. And I actually truly believe this. I believe that, not just as a woman, anyone in Krishna consciousness, if we want to achieve this ultimate goal of reunion with Krishna, we can't jump over these position holders.
Even if they're devotee or not.
Even if they're not devotees. Even if they're Ravana incarnate. Right. Because the blessing is not dependent on them.
Interesting.
It's not coming from... So if we serve them, obviously, they can't be abusive. Obviously. Like, I should just make that a statement. They can't be forcing you to eat meat or, being abusive. Like, there's limits. But if they're just, non-devotees, but they're good human beings, and they've done their duty of raising you. You obviously became a devotee, so they've done something right. Then it's our duty to serve them. It's our duty to look after them. It's our duty to respect them and reciprocate, because we're indebted as children. It's a lifelong debt,
Right.
and it's not like a burden of debt. It's actually the most beautiful thing, because we still get the reward is there.
Let's look at another question. Is it possible that through karma, that privilege of depending on someone doesn't come along? Good question.
Through karma, meaning because of karma, that privilege of depending on someone else doesn't come.
Like you're talking about the privilege of depending on someone, like you're depending on your husband, that doesn't come along because of karma. That's entirely possible.
Right. Like karma is such a wow. Like trying to understand karma is like trying to grasp, Krishna. I feel like karma is so nuanced. We don't really understand it. It's so nuanced. Like prarabdha and kutta and bija.
Right.
There's just so many layers there that even when Krishna says sarva moksha shyami masucha, like he's sarva papebhyo, he says, I'll take away all of your sins. It's still described that the prarabdha doesn't go away. There's so many little things that are there.
Right. The body is the prarabdha. Actually, the prarabdha karma.
That has to. You have to. Therefore, you see devotees still suffering, because that cannot be. Anyway, it's complicated. But coming back to this point about not having the privilege to serve someone. Like, let's say you don't have kids. Let's say you don't have a husband. I truly believe you can find someone to serve. Like, you can just, like, look at Para. I talked to Parashuram yesterday, and he's just, he's a little guy. Just
someone to serve back there.
Yeah. Like, where is? Yeah. Parashuram, he's just serving, like, every needy person that comes by him. He finds a way to serve someone. But what's really important is this, again, that the service be a little bit uninterrupted and unmotivated, right? Like, it's all the same principles, but the more reward, the greater the reward, the closer it is to this uninterrupted and unmotivated, and even in normal dealings. Therefore, it is said that the connection between a mother and a child is the closest thing to the love of Krishna.
Right.
So it's difficult. Like if you just volunteer somewhere once a week, that reward in your life will be equivalent. It will be proportionate.
Right.
Therefore, it is important that we make those sacrifices to find someone who is in it for the long haul, so that we can make it uninterrupted, so that we can make the service last for the whole life. And then it becomes unmotivated. In the beginning, when I married my husband, it was probably motivated, let's be honest. But I can say truly that after 11 years, it's becoming a little bit less motivated. A little bit, it becomes a little bit more of a, okay, this is what it is.
Like all those parts that were there in the beginning are peeled off, and it's just like very much like raw and like what it is all the way underneath.
And it's almost like this is the point of where we're supposed to get. The whole beginning was like, and that's where most people cut off when it gets hard. But true service, true this act of giving ourselves is when it gets a little bit more difficult. And to the degree that we give ourselves, to that degree we shall reap the reward. And then it becomes, transformational.
Right. I think a follow-up from Alina. So your suggestion to empower women is telling us to try to submit to another person through marriage. What about support nets of other women, family, community, friends?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely essential part of, even in the Vedic system, the idea is that the elders in the community, especially women, they have a very important role to play. They pass on this wisdom and this kind of guidance and inspiration to all the other women. And so I actively seek out old people. Like, I kind of love them.
Oh my God, me too.
Me too, right? They're like the coolest people ever.
Yeah.
They have so much to give. And they're becoming such a rare breed, you know, the ones that really gave their life to another person. So absolutely seek out people that you can serve. You know, it doesn't have to be husband. I mean, I'm very aware that for most people, it's not that. For most people, it's not going to be that. But this conversation is to just kind of share with you that the Vedic system is actually very, truly, essentially feminist, in the sense that it is truly empowering and for the benefit of womankind. It's not. That's actually me sharing my success story with my husband, or it's just simply to share that there's no sense of this oppression and marginalizing, and like there's just no question of that. So I hope I'm making myself clear with that it's not meant to make anyone feel, if it's not achievable, or then there's other ways to serve. There absolutely are other ways.
Right. Okay.
Trying to think of.
Let's see here. Sanagrisi has a question. Is it even possible to speak of Sri Dharma without the social support structure that gives protection and safety to women?
Very good question. Thanks, Annika. And then Western side doesn't really have the social structure of having. We have unqualified men and women who don't know how to make a Vedic marriage work. Yeah.
Good point.
Very good point. I would definitely agree with you there that it's so essential. One of the most common things that mothers nowadays are experiencing is this kind of postpartum depression. And my little 2 cents on that is it's almost like society keeps asking mothers this question that, oh, what do you do? Like you're a mother, that's great, but what do you do?
Yeah.
What do you really do? And this is it, and we're doing it to ourselves as well. I know, like I already said before, I've the amount of moms that I know that doubt themselves or feel like they're not doing enough with their lives, or somehow that fulfilling this role of motherhood is nice, but that's not the permanent situation. That's not who I am. That's not who I really am. And this is a really important point for me to come to terms with myself. I remember having this identity crisis when the first one was born. Like I said, I didn't even intend to have kids. In that sense, I didn't make conscious. Yeah, we talked about it. Me and my husband. Yeah, we'll have 3 kids, maybe. Really ambitious in that sense. But I wasn't. I didn't really think about it like that. I was like, yeah, we'll see. Whatever, you know. So I remember having that kind of anxiety about who am I? Sure, I'm a mother, but I would say now, the more I explore exactly how fulfilled I've been and understand that I truly could not be doing anything more important with my time than serving these children, serving Krishna by serving these children and my husband, or serving so that the world can have better human beings in it. That's my little, and I truly have to believe that to the core, so that I can keep this kind of self-doubt at bay. Yes. And the same exact thing I would say to society and the triggers that when you meet a mother, especially in ISKCON, don't have this interaction with them as if this is kind of a secondary thing. And I really feel that this is something that's lacking. You know, because in general, in society, in the Vedic society, there's no question about the supreme position, like I said, of motherhood, of a mother, of a, you know, the grihastashram. It's not questioned that that's somehow a lower, you know, andhakupa.
Right.
Like, okay, we get it, but most even divine couples, they're couples, you know, that's the actual position at the end. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. So I agree with you, Sanika, that there's a real need for us as a society, especially ISKCON, to bridge that gap, like I said earlier, that I feel like so much has been lost and distorted in translation. So much has been like just even this idea about sex, it is truly become either a taboo or an obsession. It's like dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Kama is literally on the same sentence as dharma. So it is not, it's not something that's that we need to really worry so much about. It's just a necessity that's there, and you're done with it. And actually, this is kind of, again, I come back to this thing of Indians don't obsess about sex. They don't have a taboo about it, and they don't obsess about it. It's just there. It's just a natural part of life. And the reason why I'm saying that is because somehow it's become a taboo in ISKCON. Somehow it's become so distorted that we're oscillating between, oh my God, brahmachari can't even look at a woman. Oh my God, well, if he has a fall down, he's going to fall down.
Yeah.
It's okay, brahmachari, if you become a grihast, that's like, you'll be all right. You might even
most likely will become a grihast.
You most likely, and that's the narrative that somehow women cause a fall down of men. Sure, it might be fact.
Right.
We don't have to like go on beating your drums about it. You don't have to be like obsessing about the fact that is now, you know, that's the end. It's a fall down. No, that's just the beginning. Okay, you fall down, and then that's the beginning of the spiritual journey. That's so. Yes, I feel like as a society, we need to definitely get on board with accepting women not as a means of fall down, not as a mothers are kind of there, but you know, the bondage, Maya, into this material realm. So, like I said, I did go through the phase where I thought it was all Prabhupada's fault. Mm-hmm. And then I realized, nah, it's just, that's not what he meant. That's not what he was saying. That's actually just something that's been taken out of context and then utilized by certain people for their own agenda. And this, we see it again and again, where certain people feel, actually the scriptures can be used to justify almost anything. Devil worship. It's in the Vedas. You know, anything you want, you can justify it.
Right. You can cherry pick. You can cherry pick any quotes and pick them out and fit your own ideas.
Yes. So a little bit of work to be done. And Sanika, maybe you can help us out. Start a petition.
Right. Here's looks like a question from Cap. As you say, you decide, but I think it's great that you are sharing your experience of a real path that is possible. How do you think we reach a mutual appreciation or acceptance of different paths? Good question.
Yeah, thanks, Cap. How do we reach a mutual appreciation? Yeah. Well, clearly there are many paths, you know. Like I love the Bhagavad Gita because it's kind of like a solution to every problem. How did Krishna go about it? You know, there's, of course, bhakti yoga is easier, and susukham kartum avyayam. Yes, it's more joyous and it's the easiest. It's the quickest way home. Now, if that's not your inclination, getting married is not your inclination. Having children is just Maybe you've been traumatized. Maybe, like, I clearly decided I didn't, like I said. So I completely understand if someone says, I can't do it.
Yeah.
There are definitely other ways. And the way we can bring about that appreciation is by understanding the philosophy in a deeper sense. By understanding this, that is the whole point. There's no question of force at any point. And when we realize that we're all just, in an absolute sense, each path is almost as good as the other, right? It's not like jnana, there's a ladder, but if it's going to do the job, it's absolute. It's an absolute truth. Krishna is an absolute truth, however you approach him. So how can we get more acceptance? By realizing the depth of acceptance in Krishna himself, by understanding that he accepts everyone exactly for who they are. Like, how many stories of him accepting people exactly who they are. I think it's a matter of maturity. I think it's a matter of maturity in our own spiritual practice that we can accept others. And it's almost as if, like, if you can't, you're probably having a hard time accepting yourself as well. It's usually a sign that, I don't know if that answered any of it, Cap.
What about women that cannot have children? How should they approach the relationship with the partner?
That's I mean, I think it's up to you and your partner, really, or the woman and the partner, because a lot of these questions, I feel like, it's a journey, and you get to decide. You can explore that yourself. It's and obviously, a lot of the times I feel like we look for answers with other people, but we have the answer. I feel like deep inside how you can go about something. If you can't have children, so be it. That's maybe in some sense you might be lucky, I tell people sometimes they ask me, I have this conversation with many women, and I say it's a lot of work. It's maybe you're having more time to do other study and do other spiritual practices. So I don't have time for literally anything else. And there's a lot of times I wish I did. So there's a give and take. I'm trying to paint a picture here very much pro children and husband, because that's what the topic was about a little bit. But that could be a blessing. It depends on how you utilize it. It depends on how you utilize that time. And like I said earlier, if we find someone to serve, someone worthy, we find that seva bhava and that surrender in Guru, or some other senior Vaishnavas, someone truly worthy of that. But ultimately, I feel like there's so many discussions that should just be had between you and your partner, and it's an autonomous situation. You would be empowered to have that answer yourself.
Right. Sorry for being such a cynic here, but probably her happiness is making her blind to the systematic oppression of women that manifests in the super high rates of femicide in Latin America and Eastern countries, and child marriage and sexual abuse, etc. Any comments on that?
Yeah, I hear you. I do agree that it's a real problem, but it's hard to explain it, because growing up in India, I had never even heard about it. Never even heard about killing off of girl, female infanticide.
Right.
So 30 years down the road, it's such a complex issue in India. I don't know how it is in Latin America, but it's a socio-economic issue. It's very much interrelated with finance, being able to afford children. So it's really interesting that we don't have the same problems with abortion as we do with female infanticide. Like, I find that curious, because why are we okay with that? Why are we okay with just killing of normal fetuses, but then if it's just the female one that's been picked out? I get it. It's, we're being, it's females that are being targeted. But actually in India, it's just a matter of really not being able to afford the dowry, not being able to afford a child.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily targeted because she is a woman. Does that make sense? I feel like it's, anyway. And I'm not trying to say that somehow Sri Dharma is the answer for all of this. No, I don't have the answer to any of it.
Right.
And yeah, I've had my journey from becoming cynic into this positivity journey, and everyone chooses to take it. I definitely have come over to the positive side of it, because that was my choice, and I see the positivity in it, and therefore I choose to live it. And that's everyone's choice. You can continue to be a cynic. That's absolutely fair play.
Yeah. There's some great comments on here. I suggest everyone, Kishori, also please go check it out. But I'm gonna just have these a few rest, and we can end there. What I take from this talk is that Kishori Prabhu has shown that she willingly made the choices that make her genuinely happy, in spite of appearing conservative to others, and that's a valuable message to women. Thank you, Alina, for that. I know you had previous questions and things like that. Here's another question. How do you balance your spiritual practice with your motherly duties? How do you prioritize? Good question.
Yeah. I've actually come to the conclusion that this is my spiritual practice. It's non-different, really. And in a true sense, because not that we just we just do whatever we want. There is a a structure of spirituality at home, and so I can make that connection that we're trying our best to lead a spiritual life, which means that these are devotees, these children of mine, and meaning it's important to understand that this is a spiritual activity because it's in service of devotees.
Right.
It's only a spiritual activity because I'm serving devotees and I'm serving the Supreme Person through the devotees. So it's actually completely, there's no differentiation, especially according to the Sri Dharma, for us. And that's actually our ticket out. It's almost like Krishna says, if you look after your children and you give them your love and your time, then that's your ticket out. You don't need to do anything else. Traditionally, women didn't even have to take initiation. I know most people are like, oh, well, that's demeaning, or that's somehow, I don't know, degrading. But I'm like, actually, it makes so much sense to me, because another thing I've realized is that on this path of motherhood, I feel I've made the most spiritual advancement that I made in any other phase of my life, whether I was doing any other kind of service or chanting. And I've had a few very serious phases. And I truly believe that this role of mine, the amount of self-sacrifice that it takes, the amount of humility and patience that it actually requires from me, has allowed me to progress that much further spiritually, because it is a spiritual practice. It has very little to do with it has everything to do with how you look at it,
right?
And are you actually serving Krishna in that? Like, so it's important that we still serve Guru and Krishna for this to actually be meaningful.
Siddhanta Prabhu wrote a quote in the comments from Prabhupada: "Taking care of children is just as important as doing deity worship. One service is not more important than the other. These children are not ordinary."
Absolutely. Yeah.
how do we do we have to put all women in the same category, or we can apply the principle of being a bit dramatic here, food for one, poison for another, in the way that there could be a different dharma for every stri meaning women?
Yeah. I mean, according to Sri Dharma, no. There is one dharma, because it's interesting. Like I said, again, it's about accepting that we took this body for a reason, right? It sounds unfair when it's said like that, but no, everyone has to kind of understand that the way out is through service. And within that, now, Sri Dharma, whether you choose to become a mother or not,
Yeah.
serving, like I said, again, the whole psyche thing, the Sri and the Purusha energy, for us to actually be able to benefit in this form, to be able to connect with the Supreme on a meaningful level. According to the Vedic system, there isn't, there isn't much room that everybody gets to just decide what their dharma is.
Right.
That's gonna crucify me. Probably gonna be that's gonna be blipped out and be like,
No, nothing's gonna be blipped out. We're good.
no, meaning like it's gonna, oh, Krishna. I wish I could say that. I don't have the liberty to say that, because that's not what Krishna says. It's not something that, just like for a brahmana, it's not like you can be like, I don't like these few choices, shama, dhamma, tapa, shaucham. I feel like having a few of these other ones more. Like,
right.
If you want to become a brahmana, then those are the ones you need to follow. If you want to benefit from Sri Dharma, then that's what you got to follow. It's about what you want out of it.
I mean, what about like all these we see all these like advanced women in our Krishna conscious movement. Some didn't have any children, or were married for a very short time. Do you think that, I mean, I would say that it's not necessarily that they didn't follow the Sri Dharma, but they followed like Bhagavad Dharma more?
Yeah.
Is that how you put it?
Yeah, I mean, there's that argument that at the end of the day, it's Sarva Dharman, but Krishna says
Right.
all up. You
Yes.
don't have to follow any of it. But it depends, like I said earlier, it depends on obviously where you're at. I mean, if you are truly 100% surrendered to Krishna, yeyatamam prapadyante, right? Depending on the quality and the quantity and the sincerity of our surrender, we shall get that protection from Krishna. He says it himself.
Right.
Even about women, he says, what is it? Mami Partha Vipashtitya. He says, any
That's
even women, if they surrender unto me. It's very important for me to point this out, because I feel like we take offense when stuff like this is said. We take offense, and I did it, and I understand why we take offense. But this is Krishna saying that even women, why would he have to qualify it if women did not have slightly different parameters? Vaishyas, Shudras, Papa Yoni. Anyways, getting sidetracked.
Yeah.
Of course, you can, transcend all your dharmas, but it comes at a price. There is a small risk that if you fail this ultimate dharma, the Bhagavad Dharma, if you fail to actually go through with this 100% surrender, then the cost might be a little bit greater. So maybe better to take baby steps. Maybe better to do the dharmas that come along your path.
Yeah.
Then try to, obviously, Srila Prabhupada's mood, with his mercy, this can be our last life. He was all about making this our last life,
Yeah.
you know, taking his help, holding on to him. But that involved, you know, the mood of the devotees that were around when Srila Prabhupada, and they're still around, but the amount of service that they did, I mean, I'm just being honest, there's no chance. There's no way that I can follow that level of dedication, determination, selflessness. Now, if someone has that, truly, if someone is living that and breathing it, like what? My mom says she used to go out giving out books 12 hours a day. If you have that level, you don't need no dharma.
Yeah.
You're
Most of us do.
You're done. You're gonna be taken care of, you know.
Yeah.
But for most of us,
Right.
most women, it's just this. It's. Anyways, I feel like I've said what I needed to.
This was awesome, Kishori. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I think a lot of people appreciated it too. I mean, it was on the, you know, it was not according to what's generally spoken, but that's what this podcast is really about, to hear things that are not really talked about, and also from someone's experience. I mean, how can we fault someone's experience?
Yeah. I feel like I would never, you know, right from the beginning, I was saying I don't want to do this specifically because it can't come off any other way other than being preachy. Because at the end of the day, you have to say that yes, there is a Sri Dharma, and that was really what's been holding me back for so long. Because who am I to preach? Like that is not the intent here. But I got to take one for the team, because it's like there is a reality here. There is an ultimate eternal truth here. And of course, we can choose our path, but it's not. It's important that we know that there's also this option.
Right. So I'd like to end here just because we are out of time. And what did I want to say? I wanted to. Do you have any concluding statements? Just like a short concluding statement. Make it all into one sutra for us.
Oh, right. Give me like. I feel like I've kind of. Yeah.
If you don't, that's okay.
Right. It boils down again and again for me to understanding that it's an opportunity of service and that there is no other way out. Like service. You know, I remember when growing up, when I heard we are eternal servants of God.
Yeah.
That used to trigger me. I didn't used to like that. I'd be like, I don't want to be a servant. And it's so interesting because obviously spiritual material dynamic is totally opposite. The servant here is the lowest.
Yeah.
Servant in the spiritual world is the highest.
Yeah.
And just from now, with a little bit of life experience, this is the conclusion for me. That if we can find someone to serve, that is the essence. That is just and the closer that we can make it to uninterrupted and unmotivated, the more fulfilling it will be for us. And to me, the way I view Sri Dharma is that's what it's facilitating. That's it. It's simply facilitating a platform for me as a woman to be able to achieve like deep sense of satisfaction and joy through being able to serve someone in the long run in a meaningful way that will be unmotivated and uninterrupted. And therefore, I know that the process works because I can see it in my life. I can see that by serving unmotivatedly and uninterruptedly, I'm experiencing joy. I'm experiencing the sense of liberation.
Yeah.
I'm experiencing the sense of freedom and independence from my own anarthas and my own mind. And therefore, I know for a fact that if I serve Krishna with the same motivation, it's gonna work because I can see it in action now in this lifetime.
Wonderful. I love that perspective. Thank you so much, Kishori. I really appreciate it.
Oh.
For those of you who don't know, Kishori is also she's like an online celebrity. I mean, you had a viral video that had like 10 million views or something of you and your family doing kirtan. If you haven't seen that, go check it out on her page. Just put her name in the search bar and you'll see it on Facebook. If you have any questions for Kishori, I'm sure you can message her and have this. I'm sure you're gonna get a lot of messages from this, which is good.
God. That should be my concluding statement. Please forgive me. Like if you have it in your heart, if you've been offended and you feel, like I've said something that triggers you, I ask for your forgiveness.
I think we also have to remind ourselves that just because someone has a different perspective or a different idea than us doesn't make them evil or doesn't make them bad. It just makes them different. And we have to appreciate differences in opinion. Even within the devotee community, there's so many differences of opinion. And I think
regardless, I feel like if a devotee feels hurt or offended,
right,
I'm going to get karma.
Right,
so
right.
Even
but your intention was not. Your intention was not to hurt anyone. So
but that was one risk of going live with this topic. That
yes, I think it was wonderful.
We don't want to any devotees. We don't want to disturb any devotees. And if you can find it in your heart to forgive me, if I have.
Right. So that's episode 46. Please go to my website, the latemorning.show. Subscribe to my channel on YouTube. Subscribe to my Facebook page. I'm basically having weekly episodes all the way until the end of the year. I'm trying to hit 100 episodes. I'm at 47. So you're going to get new content every week, which is awesome. And Kishori, stay on. I'm going to...
Also, I just want to give you a shout out. Like, my husband's a huge fan. Everyone I know listens to this. So if anyone's listening for the first time, this is the real deal. This is really gonna get real.
I'm a big fan of Birju. Big shout out to Birju for taking care of the kids. Well, four kids, while Kishori spends almost 2.5 hours talking about a great subject matter. But Kishori, stay on. I'm going to turn off the live. Thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you.
Krishna, Hare Krishna.